Right, so I'll try in 5 minutes to talk to you about what's happening in Greece right now. Greece is a particularly interesting case for the reason that we're in big deep crisis. So I don't know whether this is good or bad. It's very difficult, certainly. And what we're trying to do is to actually try to open up as much data as possible in order to solve some of the problems we have here. And I'm here representing the Special Secretariat for Digital Planning, which is essentially a unit handling funds for digital projects in Greece. The biggest fund for digital projects in Greece. And Xenophon, that was to be here, he's from the PM's office, working on the same issues. So 4 points in 5 minutes, if possible. A couple of issues that we're facing, legal issues and how we tackle it. The organizational model for opening up data in Greece, which is particularly relevant. It relates also to the discussion before about developing countries. I think this is important, and to talk not just about countries which have a very good administrative system in place, but countries which have lots of problems with their public administration, and they are not developing countries. And I think this is a discussion that is missing, it's a piece that is missing from the discussion, is very important here. And finally, some of the outcomes of our efforts. The greatest issues that we have in the Greek case is that we have a lot of structural inefficiencies in terms of how the administration works, lots of administrative costs, and a market, an IT market, and this is important, which is a books-moving market, essentially. So effectively what we have, and this is really important in the European context, is people that actually get licenses from proprietary software and selling them. Or they are vendors who represent foreign companies, which means it's very difficult to create sustainable development models within the country. Therefore, trying to produce internally capacity and national capacity is really, really important for developmental purposes. So how can we resolve these issues? We try to do that, and I'll just focus here on the organizational aspects, by establishing an Gov Data task force at the level of the PM's office. Precisely because the problems are very complex, we decided to follow very targeted interventions. So they're small scale, they are manageable. For instance, open up geodata. We had the impetus, and we had the obligation to do it because the Inspire, it was a manageable project. Then we decided to collaborate with very specific ministries. So we chose ministries which were very receptive, like some specific units in the Ministry of Interior, which was very important because it cuts across the public administration, on the Ministry of Environment, which was responsible for geospatial data. And the approach we follow is that we have a group of experts, legal experts, software developers, and we identify problem owners. So we get there, the team has to be really small, so we don't go more than 5 people. We work with the problem owner, we try to solve the problem, and we have very tight timelines of how this is to be solved. So we don't try for an approach that is going to solve the whole problems of the Greek administration, but rather tackle very, very specific issues. So legal developments, there have been quite a few of them. The PSI implementation, while it's there since 2006, and that's a problem across Europe, we have implementations of the Public Sector Information Directive, but the way it normally works is you have a set of regulations, but then you need ministerial decrees and circulars to define the ways in which the licenses and the data are going to be actually released. Normally these take ages, so in order to actually avoid the fines from the Commission, you pass the legislation really quickly, but you never pass the decrees. And that's a problem we had in Greece as well, and this is what we're working on. And what we did was actually to standardize and issue a couple of standard licenses, or just release the data, even without having the full legal framework in place. Inspire implementation was particularly useful because it allowed us also to do more things than the Commission required. And that's again another lesson to learn in Europe. The directives there are a minimum level of protection. We should always try to get a step beyond that. Try to give more information out than the directives actually oblige us to do. And then we had a very important law in 2010 which actually obliged the administration to make public all their decisions. The impact of this law is unbelievable, because now you suddenly have all sorts of information, from contracts to simple decisions, out there, and it marks a significant cultural change. And as As you see, we have 2 out of 4 of these things happening the last 6 months. So there has been quite a bit of activity, but we still have to do a lot more things there. Another important thing I would like to say is that we link all the funding criteria with these criteria here. So whatever money is going to be spent now on, it has to be related to some sort of opening up of data or standards. And we have a number of other legal initiatives in the pipeline. What is really important for us here is to always have this type of model here. So it's not just necessary to pass legislation, but make sure that you have someone being responsible by law for particular data sets. Then you have points of aggregation and clearance, and make sure that you have oversight both in the level of the political level and in the administrative level. And I think this is something we see in the PSI directive and the INSPIRE directive, and we try to replicate this structure in the new pieces of legislation we produce. The applications normally have to do with the implementation of the legislation we have passed. The only thing I would like to say is that we just announced last week and the second round of our consultation on open data, on what kind of data sets do you want to be released, so choose your data. I think this is very much relates to discussion we had before. Collaborate with the citizens so to make them choose which are the data sets, which is your priority. So don't try to set your priorities without the involvement of the citizens. We're having today and tomorrow a similar event like today's about geodata and open data. It has gathered over 100 developers and quite a few of businesses interested in working on open data in order to provide services. And we're going to also try to release open cities initiatives where we try to release spending data in the 2 bigger cities in Greece. So that's it, and lunch for you. Thank you very much.